Ang Lee is a filmmaker who has gained popularity in his homeland and abroad. Born in Taiwan in 1954, he rose to prominence in the early 90s with films like Pushing Hands, The Wedding Banquet, and Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, the three of which are collectively referred to as the Father Knows Best trilogy. After that, he made his debut overseas in 1995 with Sense and Sensibility, which was followed by The Ice Storm and Ride with the Devil. In 2000, he made his global breakthrough with what many consider is his most critically acclaimed film, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. To this day, he continues to make unanimously praised films outside of his homeland. How did Ang Lee manage to gain so much success? What makes him such a border-transcending storyteller? His early films, like Eat, Drink, Man, Woman and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, are almost based entirely on Eastern principles and explore Chinese cultural values, which have little relevancy in the West. However, his use of social themes is what appeals to the sensibilities of viewers abroad. Ang Lee blurs the border between East and West to make films that analyze the conflict between tradition and progress. To analyze films from Lee's homeland, one must first consider them as products of local influence. Ang Lee's films are rooted in Eastern philosophical ideas, almost all of which focus on the issue of balance. These ideas identify both the values and the tensions in the plot, much as classical and Christian values define the action and symbolism of Western chivalric romances. Eat, Drink, Man, Woman's title comes from the Book of Rites, a Confucian text. The phrase is also a spoken line in the film.
饮食男女，人之大欲，不想也难。唉，忙活一辈子就为这个，想了气人呐，好滋味谁尝过了？
Whitney Dilley analyzes that the title implies larger themes that the narrative of the movie will explore, such as the difference between the male and the female, yet it suggests an interdependence, such as that between eating and drinking. In the same vein, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was heavily influenced by yin-yang and Taoism. Various polarities are explored within the film, such as when Mu Bai speaks Taoist polarities to Jialong in the heat of battle.
无主，无长，不应，不变，无知无欲，舍己从人，才能我顺人辈。教你一点做人处事的道理。
Even poison can be analyzed with a yin-yang mindset. Poison can be considered to be any natural force whose strength grows beyond balance with the organism. In the film, poison is used as a weapon by Jade Fox, revealed to be Xiaolong's mother, and she reveals that her daughter was like a poison to her.
什么是毒？一个8岁的孩子就有这种邪气，这就是毒。蛟龙，我唯一的妻，唯一的仇。
Poison is a psychological motif in the space of the film, and is exemplified by the fox's lust for revenge, or Xiaolong's desire for power. It consumes them, and grows out of balance with them. Cultural identity also plays a major part of the story of both films. In Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, food is a major part of the culture. Cooking seems to run through the veins of the Chu family.
No， 算什么爱？
你记得什么？或许他们没有你这种现代浪漫法，但他们有他们老式相亲相爱的方式。
老式的战争吧，马早走了，提前结束了一场长期抗战。
Carl Dole argues what appeared to be clashing personalities was actually the expression of a shared passion. Their shared passion for cooking led to a passionate combination of personalities. Chu and his wife loved their work, which is why ever since her death, he has grown morbid, making him literally lose his sense of taste. In Crouching Tiger, martial arts is used to exemplify a sort of Chineseness. Lee asserts that it is the most emblematic genre of Chinese films. Lee immersed himself in the martial arts genre, hewing closely to its well-established conventions and paying homage to earlier movies and creatively recycling familiar narrative tropes. The master whose death must be avenged, the stolen book of martial arts secrets that must be recovered, the skillful student who lacks maturity, and the rogue villain who tries to operate outside the strict conventions of school and lineage. The films are deeply inspired by Chinese themes, but use them to tell stories that go beyond such influences. The films also demand analysis beyond the influence of China, of the country's diasporic context in globalized society. Often associated with the Taiwanese new cinema, Li's focus on postmodern spaces reflects an increasingly globalized and postmodern culture that transcends national boundaries. Returning to the title of Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, the larger motifs of food and sex, the fundamental components of all human life, are implied in a neat shorthand of translated Chinese, and are universally recognized to be transcendent of any cultural boundary or border. Thus, the title of the film itself is a sign of the globalized, territorially non-specific themes within. Food in the film is emblematic, infused with significance, and an intergenerational means of communication. In many cultures, food and drink are emblematic of love and respect. In this film, they are basic necessities of life. Not just things that we need to survive, but things that we need to express ourselves with. It is almost like an art, a tradition that is passed down. Li's diasporic influence also extends to his portrayal of ancient China in Crouching Tiger, for which he has been accused of inauthenticity. The main reason could be, as Christina Klein points out, growing up in Taiwan, Li had no direct experience of mainland China, and as an adult he made only one 5-day visit. Not until he spent 5 grueling months filming Crouching Tiger in China did he have his first sustained encounter with the mainland. Most of what Li used as a basis for the film came from the movies that he watched and stories that he heard from his parents. The indirect images and dreams that he had create a diasporic, fantastical representation of Chinese legend. Ji Li counter-argues that instead, Li blends Eastern story with Western plot, abandoning the narration preference in the old-style martial arts films, which tended to concentrate on enmity and ignore the description of the characters. Li's films blend old values with new thematic material and styles to create something that is familiar, if differing from the established beliefs. The border in both films is the gap between generations set by cultural expectation. Both films feature oppositional viewpoints of the younger and older generations. The younger generation is represented by female protagonists unsatisfied with their roles in society, whilst the older generation is usually made up of men who strictly enforce their expectations of them. Personal liberty versus cultural values. Social themes also play a big part in Li's films, with feminism and gender roles being the most heavily explored. Li often deals sympathetically with a repressed woman operating within the strict confines of duty in an attempt to fulfill her proper role, while clearly reflecting a lack of fulfillment. Chu's own daughter, Jia Shen, wants to pursue cooking as well after being stuck with a desk job. Chu, however, is against it.
干出去为你好，多学点有用的东西。
你就是没办法接受女人当大厨。
Chu enforces old rituals on a family that needs growth and development in order to function healthily, while secretly stifling expression of his own feelings. In a film where the father supposedly knows best, it is an important contrast that highlights the opposing desires. Crouching Tiger's feminism is a bit hard to place since it is made in an ancient Chinese setting. Still, it manages to tackle gender roles in the film through the relationship between the lead female protagonists, Xiaolong and Xulen. Xiaolong looks up to Xulen. The two of them go so far as to claim a sisterly bond between themselves. They are foils for each other, however, as shown in their distinct fighting styles. Xiaolong's fighting style expresses her desire to be free of social constraints and obligations to others, to liberate herself from the requirements of her age and sex. Xulen's fighting style, in contrast, expresses the extent to which she has allowed herself to be disciplined by her sense of duty and by the repression of her desires. The conflict between the two requires Xulen to ground Xiaolong, to teach her the value of discipline, and that the path she is taking is destructive. By the end, however, she actually encourages Xiaolong to follow her own path.
答应我，不论你对此生的决定为何，一定要真诚地对待自己。
Xulen relieves Xiaolong from her desire for the Green Destiny Sword, further relieving her of her desire for power. Generational divides are common in all corners of the world, not just in China. The old and the young often disagree on the shifting of culture in new directions. Nonetheless, the changing culture is an inevitability in a globally connected society. The film exemplifies this through its story of young women finding their own paths in life, challenging the views of older generations. Old and new, East and West, home and overseas. Ang Lee blends these dichotomies to create films that address modern issues. He uses Chinese cultural aesthetics to ground the film in a setting, but blends them with modern Western influence to make something that is familiar to audiences outside of Asia. The films he makes juxtapose and contrast old values with new ones, shedding light on both sides to show how they would hold up in the modern world. Eat, Drink, Man, Woman and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon may be set in different time periods, but they address themes that are relevant to people living in the modern world. That Lee has gained fame in places beyond his home of Taiwan shows that his films are indeed relevant and border transcending.
女儿，
爸。